It always feels good when I get to talk about an original film on this channel in the landscape of sequels and remakes. The fact that it's a horror no less, maybe even more excited to go see it. That movie is Cobweb. I had seen like one trailer for Cobweb during my screening of the always abysmal Insidious 5, but it had stuck with me since, as it looked pretty intriguing. The basic premise of Cobweb is we follow Peter, an 8-year-old boy who is plagued by bumps in the night, and a mysterious voice who tells him his family might not be what it seems. I'm sure you've shuddered at the mention of the main character being a literal child, but honestly the kid isn't even awful, surprisingly. Whether this child has a natural acting talent, maybe from experience, or the director really made sure to get a good performance out of him, paid off, because I didn't want to kill myself whenever he was on screen. When he was in peril, he really sells it. You find yourself sympathizing with him. I think for me it's always easy to quickly connect with kids in horror movies, a lot more than stupid teenagers. I think that's why a movie like Skinamarink really left an impression on me when I first watched it, because the subtext going on there. But what I felt this movie took most from was the Black Phone. The whole communicating with possibly something from beyond was really similar to that. Antony Starr from The Boys fame is in this movie. He plays the dad, and my god, I don't know if it's just Homelander's essence in this guy, but he is a scary, scary man. He always looks like he's pissed off at the kid, or worse, he looks like he wants to kill him. He's always talking in a way that you don't know what he really means, and it's great. It really keeps you guessing. They cast him in shadows a couple of times, and he just has the menacing stance down to a T. I really thought initially this movie was going down the Shining direction and have him be an absolute psycho. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen, but I'm sure he'll get similar roles in the future. The mom was pretty good too. She's just unhinged pretty much the whole movie and sells it in a way you can't tell if she's overprotective or if she's just a fucking nut. I was very uneased when she was on screen. This movie isn't necessarily scary. Somehow it has really cheap jump scares, but also not in a way. I don't know if my theater had a mixing issue, but for some of the jump scares they didn't have that loud obnoxious thud sound effect. Maybe that was a blessing in disguise because it made for a more enjoyable experience. The jump scares that weren't good were the most expected ones, but that's a given. For the most part, this movie had a pretty good villain until I think the last 20 minutes when they show its fucking face. It looks like shit. It looks like a goddamn creepypasta. I am happy to report though, this movie doesn't follow the recent horror movie trend of having an elongated lanky creature as its villain. It opts to harken back to a long-haired entity in vein of The Ring, so that was appreciated to see. This film really ramps up in its gore by the third act. That's something as well, I'm not sure how people will feel. This movie is kind of a slow burn, even though its spooky elements come into play very early on. And it's also a pretty short runtime. It's just under an hour 30 minutes. But if you read the movie has gore, don't expect it to be all the way. It's only in the third act when these couple of characters come in, and as soon as you see them, you know they are just brought in for cannon fodder. They are just there to die. But when the gore comes into this movie, it's really fun. There's some really fun cinematography in this film too. Lots of rotating shots which give way to an uneasy or even otherworldly feeling to the whole film. Lots of interesting use of lights and shadows especially too. If anything, I would say this film was the perfect first movie of September to come out. I think it would get anyone in that Halloween mood. This movie would be even better to watch during Halloween as it takes place very close to it in the context of this film. I'm giving Cobweb 3.5 stars. It's a fun little spooky treat which offers semi-derivative ideas but still portrays itself good enough to be enjoyable on its own. Even its cheap jump scares are cast aside for an engaging story with easily connectable and interesting enough characters. If you're ready for the Halloween season, this is the movie to check out. Also, support original movies that are in your theaters.